Are you stuck at a crossroads, confused as to which turn you should take, which direction you should go in? Sometimes it can be helpful to stop and to realize that there isn't necessarily a right choice. There isn't necessarily a proper single path that you should be taking. There are just different paths. Much of the time, the problem in making that decision arises because we're scared of choosing the wrong path. We're looking forward into the future, we're seeing failure or regret, we're feeling phobic about that, and that's stopping us from making decisions in the present. But of course, not making decisions in the present can be rather uncomfortable in its own right, and that may mean that we're getting a bit stuck and not progressing forward in the kind of direction that we'd like to go in. So the truth is, we can't hold ourselves to that highest standard. We can't be expected to know the future in all its nuances and detail and to be able to now make perfect decisions based on something that hasn't happened yet. But what we can do is stop and reflect a little bit more on what it is that we're actually all about, what it is that matters, to list some of our main priorities in order to get some sense of what they are, and then to look at that crossroads, to see the available options in front of us as best as we can see them, and to choose what seems like the least worst path. Of course, if there seems to be one path that goes in the opposite direction of everything that matters to us, well then that's probably not the path to choose. You can if you want, but there's no reason to. If there's another path that seems to be oriented towards those things that are meaningful and that matter, great, choose that. If there's a path that seems to point towards some of the things we want, but not all of them, well, that might be a good path to explore, and maybe you can incorporate some of those other things a little bit later down the path. But very often when we look at these paths, it's rare that we see a path that meets every single one of our needs. Usually, it's just the least worst path that's the one that can be pursued. And it's only in the act of walking the path, of exploring it, that we learn a bit more about who we are, what we really want, and what other paths are available. For the most part, these paths aren't binary. It's not that we commit to them and that's it. There's no room for variation. There are little paths that go off paths. There's other resources that join along the route that you mightn't have expected when you look down that road. But don't allow this preemptive sense of regret to stop you from living that bit more freely and meaningfully. As long as you're checking in with yourself and what your values are, as long as you're being kind and caring in the way you're moving forward, well then you can only do your best.